I always thought I'd die behind the wheel of a Porsche, maybe clipped by a reckless teen or caught in someone else's mistake. But I never expected a blacked-out SUV to be waiting for me on a dead stretch of Nevada asphalt, its lights off and engine running cold, ready to finish what betrayal had started. What saved me wasn't luck. It was instinct, the same one that made me rich. The same one that now told me someone wanted me very, very dead. You don't get to 45 with a net worth north of 80 million without ticking off a few people. But until last week, I thought my enemies lived behind boardroom doors, not waiting in the Mojave with a silencer and a watch that ticked down to my last breath. It started with a business retreat. I was headed from Las Vegas to a private ranch out near Beatty, just me, my Aston Martin DBX, and the endless road. No cell signal. No witnesses. Perfect setting for a scenic drive. Or an ambush. I saw the SUV too late to turn back, too early to pretend it wasn't there. Parked crosswise across the highway shoulder. No hazard lights. Windows tinted pitch black. Something twisted in my gut. I rolled the window down and loosened the seatbelt. Just enough to slide out fast if I had to. As I slowed near the vehicle, a shadow moved inside. That's when the passenger door cracked open, and a man stepped out with a rifle. I didn't wait. Instinct hit like lightning. I dropped the DBX into sport mode, swerved into the sand shoulder, and floored it. Gravel roared beneath me. I clipped a cactus, swerved around a rock cluster, and punched back onto the road behind them. Gunfire popped in my side mirror. 3 rounds. One shattered the rear window. Another pierced the quarter panel. The third never came. I didn't stop to find out why. 20 minutes later, my GPS was fried and the Aston was bleeding coolant. My hands were slick with sweat and the engine light blinked like Morse code for, "You're screwed." I left the highway, bounced through brush, and followed a dirt trail that wasn't on any map, praying it led to something. It did. A rusted gate. A crooked sign that read Lazy Springs Mobile Home Park. I coasted through, tires coughing dust, and parked near the smallest trailer at the edge of the lot. That's when I met her. "Looks like you brought trouble," she said, stepping out onto the porch in cut-off jeans and a t-shirt that read "I hate Mondays." "You have no idea," I muttered. She looked like the kind of woman who'd slap sense into a drunk and then carry his groceries. "Name's Reese," she said, arms crossed. "And you look like money with a death wish." "Lucas," I said, stepping out of the car. "And I think someone just tried to kill me." She didn't flinch. Just nodded and looked down the road. "Guess that makes 2 of us." I spent the night in her trailer, on the couch, under a patched quilt that smelled like sagebrush and dryer sheets. Reese made instant coffee like a ritual, and by morning, she knew more about me than most people I called friends. She asked good questions. Smart ones. Didn't flinch when I told her about the prenup clause, how if I died before our 10-year mark, my wife inherited everything. How I'd recently changed my will, and somehow, someone found out. She asked, "You think your wife wants you dead?" I didn't answer. I just stared at the bullet hole in my duffel. Reese didn't blink. "If she does," she said, "you'd better hope you're better at hiding than you are at marrying." But I wasn't hiding. Not really. I was about to go hunting. And I had a new partner. One who kept a shotgun under the sink and a past I hadn't yet asked about. Not yet. When a man's hunted, he gets real good at noticing shadows. The problem is, shadows don't talk back. People do. And Reese didn't waste a word. The next morning, I woke to the smell of bacon and the sound of metal on metal. She was in the kitchen cleaning her shotgun with the same focus I used to read market trends. Barefoot, bandana in her hair, sleeves rolled. She didn't look scared. She looked ready. "You snore," she said, not looking up. Could have fooled me with that clean suit face. Thought you Wall Street types were too polished to breathe that loud. I sat up, still in yesterday's clothes, sore in places I didn't know could ache. You always feed strays? I asked. She smirked. Only the wounded ones. We ate in silence. Outside, the desert sizzled beneath the sun. My car was a broken, purring corpse in her driveway, covered with a tarp sheet thrown over it before sunrise. She passed me a mug. Black coffee. No sugar, no mercy. You need to disappear, she said finally. If they tried once, they'll try again. And next time, they won't botch it. I don't plan to give them a next time. She leaned forward, elbows on the table. Good. Because I don't have time to bury another body in this heat. I paused. Another? She didn't answer. By noon, she'd patched my bullet-grazed arm with a first aid kit that looked older than my trust fund. The TV buzzed in the background, local news murmuring about a vehicle incident off Highway 95. No names. No details. But I knew. They were still looking for me. I stepped outside to clear my head. Sand crunched beneath my boots. The air was dry enough to crack skin. Reese's trailer sat at the edge of a forgotten world, sun-bleached junkers, a busted vending machine, and one neighbor who hadn't moved since I arrived. Just sat in a lawn chair, watching flies and drinking from a can of Milwaukee's Best. You military? I asked when I got back inside. Reese raised an eyebrow. That obvious? Shotgun. Quiet confidence. Emotional walls made of brick. She nodded slowly, almost approving. Army. 2 tours. Then I came back to find my fiancé shacked up with my sister. Sold the ring, bought this trailer, and learned to stop expecting life to make sense. I didn't respond. Some silences don't need to be filled. Later that day, I finally told her everything. About Angela, my wife. How we met. How she was there in the rough years, back when I was broke, building my first venture from my garage. How we clawed our way up together. Or so I thought. We signed a prenup, I said, pacing. 10-year clause. If I die before it's up, she inherits everything. All the equity, the houses, even the ranch in Montana. Reese whistled low. And how far are you from the 10-year mark? 72 days. She stood up, pulled the shotgun from behind the door, and cocked it with a clean click. Then we've got 71 days to make you disappear. And maybe one to come back swinging. That night, we dragged the Aston behind a rusted-out RV using Reese's pickup and parked it in a shed wrapped in tarps and chicken wire. She handed me a burner phone. Taught me how to reroute calls through dummy accounts. Even made me dig a fake grave for laughs, keeps you humble, she said. I believed her. She was the kind of woman who didn't bluff. The kind who'd seen things go sideways too many times to believe in safety. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, I wasn't just hiding. I was training. But just before bed, as I stood outside watching the desert bleed orange into indigo, Reese came up beside me. Didn't say anything for a while. Then she asked quietly, "You still love her?" The question hit harder than it should have. I stared at the stars. No, I said. I just haven't figured out who I am without her yet. She nodded. I get that. Then she walked inside and left the door open behind her. I woke up to a rattlesnake. Not metaphorically, an actual one, coiled on the windowsill outside the trailer, tail twitching like a loaded trigger. Reese didn't flinch. She calmly stepped out with a shovel, smacked it just behind the head, and tossed the corpse into a bucket like it was nothing more than trash. You ever notice how snakes don't make a sound unless they're about to strike, she said, rinsing the blood off her hands. People are the opposite. They talk too much before they do anything. By now, I'd been hiding out at Lazy Springs for 4 days. 4 days of radio silence, burner phones, and Rhys teaching me things I never thought I'd need to know, how to detect a tail in your rearview, how to hide your scent from drones, how to move like someone no one's supposed to see. I wasn't Lucas Mercer, CEO, anymore. I was a ghost with nothing to prove and everything to protect. And I was getting good at it. Rhys had a plan. Of course she did. You need to find your leak, she said one night over beans and cheap whiskey. Somebody told your wife where you'd be. That means your circle's compromised. Employees? Legal team? Friend with a big mouth? I already had a name in mind, Travis Meeks. My former business partner, ousted 2 years ago when I caught him skimming off a merger. We hadn't spoken since. But last month, Angela bumped into him at some charity gala and suddenly he was texting her again. No hard feelings, she said. Right. Rhys smirked when I told her. There's your snake, she said. Now you just gotta let him bite the wrong boot. That night, I used one of Rhys's old laptops, stripped of tracking, running through an encrypted VPN, and accessed a backup drive I'd kept for years. It had everything, archived emails, access logs, even security footage from the Vegas office I hadn't reviewed in ages. That's when I found it. A video, time-stamped 2 weeks ago. Angela in my office. Alone. Looking through a drawer I hadn't opened in months. She finds my planner. Snaps a photo of a note I'd scribbled about the retreat in Beatty. She wasn't subtle. She never needed to be. I sat there staring at the screen, Rhys standing silently behind me. So that's how they knew, I said. Rhys didn't say anything. Just handed me a file folder. What's this? Travis's current address. His car, his girlfriend, where he eats lunch on Wednesdays. I did some digging. Hope you don't mind. I looked up at her, part of me still stunned she was real. You're terrifying, you know that. She grinned. That's why I'm still alive. The plan was simple. Flush Travis out. Let him lead us to the next domino. And all the while, make Angela think I was dead, missing, or too scared to show my face. That meant leaving a trail. Rhys drove me into town the next morning, 2 towns over. I bought supplies at a truck stop, gum, gas, and a road map, and, accidentally, left a credit card receipt behind under the name M. Lucas. A subtle breadcrumb. Won't they track the card? I asked. They'll think it's sloppiness. People on the run get careless. What we're giving them is a false sense of control. Meanwhile, she held up a burner phone, already cloned and ready. We watch from the tall grass. By nightfall, we were back in the trailer. Rhys was cleaning her rifle. I was sketching out timelines and names. Every thread led back to Angela. But I still didn't know why. Sure, she'd inherit everything. But it didn't add up. Angela liked power. Influence. Not bodies in deserts. She wouldn't get her hands dirty, I said out loud. She'd hire someone. But someone close. Someone she could trust. Rhys paused. Or someone who thinks they're in control. I looked at her. You think Travis is double-crossing her? I think you underestimated how greedy snakes can get, she said. They don't stop at one meal. They keep swallowing until they choke. We were playing a game now. But it wasn't poker. It was chess in a dust storm. One wrong move, and someone gets bit. You know you're making progress when the people trying to kill you start looking nervous. Travis Meeks, former friend, current rat, had been playing middleman. And now he was scared. Rhys had him under surveillance, watching his every twitch. But Thursday afternoon, he changed pattern. Met someone in a black Escalade. Tall man. Still. Silent. Dangerous. Military, Rhys said, analyzing the footage. Not just a thug. You don't sit like that unless you've watched men bleed. I watched the screen in silence. Whoever he was, he rattled Travis enough to make him jumpy. That meant someone above Angela was pulling strings. And I needed to find out who. Reese gave me a burner phone and a suggestion: shake the tree. I texted Angela from an untraceable line. Blocked ID, you look good in widow black. Shame it's premature. Her reply was instant. Angela, Lucas? Where are you? What is going on? Blocked ID, funny. I was about to ask you the same thing. Who's Kane? No reply. Just silence. Then she tried to call. I didn't answer. Let her panic. Hours later, someone tried to trace the phone. We got a ping from a Vegas hotel. Not Angela. Travis. 2 days later, I walked into the hotel bar looking nothing like myself. Truck stop clothes. Ball cap. Just another nobody drinking warm beer. Travis sat at the far end, jittery, phone in hand. When he slipped into the restroom, I followed. He turned and froze when he saw me. Jesus. Lucas, I didn't know they'd actually try to kill me. Sure you didn't. I was just the intro. Angela wanted it clean. The guy, he goes by Kane, he's not normal. No, I said. He's a problem. Travis swallowed. $500,000. That's what he charges. I nodded. And you get what, finder's fee? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. Back at the trailer, I laid it all out for Reese. She didn't blink. Kane's not someone the law can touch, she said. But if he's real, you've got a decision coming. What kind? You want justice, she said, loading a magazine into her pistol. Or do you want peace? I looked at the map on the wall, with pins and strings crisscrossed like a spider's web. Angela was still at the center. And something told me, she wasn't the spider. There's a moment in every game when the rules stop mattering. That's when it gets interesting. For me, that moment came on a Thursday morning, when I got a message on the burner phone. No name. No greeting. Just coordinates, and one sentence. Let's talk before someone else finishes the job. Reese read over my shoulder and exhaled slowly. Kane. We both knew what that meant. He'd been watching, my message to Angela, Travis's mistake, even the hotel bar. He was signaling that the game had moved to a new level. He's not threatening you, Reese said. Not yet. This is business to him. You're a failed contract, a loose end. Loose ends can fray into something worse, I muttered. Exactly. We drove out at dawn. Desert winds howling. Reese in the driver's seat, pistol tucked under her leg. She didn't ask if I was sure. I think she respected me more now that I wasn't just hiding. That I wanted answers before I wanted blood. The coordinates led us to a half-built luxury home in the middle of nowhere, concrete shell, scaffolding rusted, desert reclaiming it inch by inch. Kane stood in the center. Black boots. Gray shirt. No expression. The kind of man you wouldn't remember unless he wanted you to. He motioned for me to come alone. Stay sharp, I told Reese. If I don't wave in 5 minutes. I shoot, she finished. Up close, Kane was calmer than I expected. No bravado. Just controlled, precise energy. Like a man who knew what he was capable of and didn't need to prove it. Lucas Mercer, he said. You're a hard man to kill. I aim to keep it that way. A pause. Then. She wanted it clean. Quiet. You die in the desert, estate gets processed, no mess. That's it. She. Angela. Kane gave a half shrug. She paid for silence. Not details. What does that mean? He looked me in the eye. Means I work for results. Not for motives. I studied him, trying to read the gaps between his words. A man like Cain doesn't reveal much. But I'd dealt with sharks before. You just had to bait them with something bigger. What if I offered more? I asked. He didn't react. You walk away, I said, and I give you double what she promised. All you have to do is vanish. Forget this job. Forget me. Still nothing. Then, finally, he nodded, slow and deliberate. Not my call anymore. That's when I knew. Angela wasn't the one in control. Back at the trailer, I laid it all out for Reese. The way Cain spoke. The subtle warnings. The fact he showed up alone but left in a helicopter we heard minutes after we drove off. This is bigger than her, I said. She's a pawn. No, Reese said. She's worse. She thinks she's in control. And that's what made her dangerous. That night, I called Angela. This time, she answered. Lucas, she breathed. Where are you? I've been. I met Cain, I said. Silence. I know everything. The claws. The money. Travis. The setup. More silence. Then, Lucas, please, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. No, it was supposed to be cleaner, I said. Less guilt. No questions. Just a neat obituary. You don't understand, she said. It's not what you think. You mean someone told you it was a good idea? She didn't deny it. Didn't confirm it either. Just whispered, please. Just come back. We can fix this. Not this time, Angela. And I hung up. Reese didn't say anything when I came out of the trailer. She just handed me a folder. Inside were documents. Property transfers. Wire logs. A hidden bank account in the Caymans tied to Angela's name. And Cain's. You wanted answers, Reese said. Now you've got them. Yeah, I said. Now I need to decide what to do with them. She raised an eyebrow. You ready to pick a side? I'm thinking, I said. Because revenge is easy. But freedom, that's the harder choice. Some men dream of revenge. Me? I dreamt of silence. Not peace. Just the quiet that comes when the rage burns out and you're left with nothing but truth and a long stretch of road ahead. But truth has a sound. And it kept getting louder. The evidence Reese gave me was damning. Bank transfers to Cain's alias 6 months before the attack. Digital breadcrumbs, emails from a ghost server linked back to an offshore IP. And buried in the metadata of one signed document, Angela's digital signature. She didn't just suggest the hit. She signed off on it. Reese and I sat across from each other in the trailer that night. No TV. No distraction. Just the hum of an old fridge and the desert wind scraping against the siding. So, she said, what's the play? I didn't answer right away. I was staring at the folder again. I could expose it all, I said. Send the files to every lawyer and outlet in the state. Burn her life down. Drag her through court for conspiracy. You'd win, Reese nodded. But it'd be ugly. Public. Long. You ready to relive this for the next 2 years? No, I said. But the other option is walking away, she finished. That idea sat in the middle of the room like a loaded gun. Walk away. Let her live with the weight of what she did. Let her rot in the house we built with memories she poisoned. Disappear and let the silence torment her. Sometimes disappearing is the loudest thing you can do, Reese said. It robs them of the power. No stage. No drama. Just, gone. You ever done it? I asked. She nodded once. Twice. What did it cost you? She gave a tight smile. Everything I thought I needed. But not what I actually did. The next morning, I shaved. Cleaned up. Put on the last good shirt I had. Reese handed me a flash drive. In case you change your mind. It's all there. Bank records, signed contracts, photos, video timestamps. Everything that could bury her. Or save you. I tucked it in my pocket. Thank you, I said. She looked at me for a long time. You were a ghost when you got here. Not anymore. I smiled. Still learning how to haunt the right people. That afternoon, I drove to Vegas in a rental with fake plates. Parked a block from Angela's high-rise. Watched from across the street as she stepped out with sunglasses and a $1,000 handbag like she hadn't tried to erase me from the world. She smiled for the valet. Blew a kiss to someone I couldn't see. For a moment, I saw the woman I married. The partner I trusted. The face that once said, forever, and almost made me believe it. But I also saw what was behind it now. And I turned the key. And drove away. I didn't go home. Didn't call the lawyers. Didn't drop the bomb. Not yet. I left a letter with my estate attorney, sealed, with instructions. If I died or disappeared permanently, it would go to every major media outlet and the FBI. But until then, I was alive. And living was the one thing Angela didn't plan for. Back at the trailer that evening, Reese handed me a cold beer and joined me on the steps. You make your decision, she asked. Yeah. She raised an eyebrow. I'm taking my life back, I said. And that doesn't include burning it down just to watch her scream. Does that mean you're leaving? I looked out at the desert. Maybe. But not without saying goodbye this time. We sat there in silence, two ghosts who chose not to haunt anymore. Just for a little while. There are two kinds of endings, the one you burn down and the one you walk away from. Turns out, the hardest part isn't choosing between them. It's living with what you choose. 2 weeks passed. Reese and I stayed quiet in the desert. I helped patch up the siding on her trailer. She taught me how to shoot with either hand. We talked about everything, except what came next. She didn't push. That was her way. But time has a pulse, and mine was speeding up. One morning, I opened my email using the secure laptop Reese set up. A single message waited. Subject, she knows you're alive. No name. No signature. But I didn't need one. Angela. She'd figured it out. Maybe someone slipped. Maybe Kane told her. Maybe she just knew me too well to believe I'd die that easily. There was no threat in the message. But it said everything. Later that night, Reese found me packing. Figured this was coming, she said, leaning in the doorway. You going back? No, I said. Not really. She studied me. But you're not staying either. I zipped the duffel shut. Can't. Too many ghosts here now. I've got to start something that belongs to me, not to her, not to what we built, not even to revenge. She nodded, quiet. Where will you go? Montana maybe. Ranch land. No neighbors. Big sky. You know how to work a fence line. Not yet. She smiled. You'll learn. We didn't say goodbye the way people do when they expect to see each other again. We said it like two people who might not. No kiss. No drama. Just a quiet, steady look. Respect. Bond. Something real. You ever need a place to disappear again, she said, you know where the trailer is. I nodded. And if you ever need a ghost to call in the dark, I'll know who to reach. I left just before dawn. Drove north. Off-grid routes. Paper maps. One name in my wallet that wasn't mine. I became someone else, quietly, and without permission. 3 months later. A man in a weathered coat stood at the edge of a pasture in Montana. Horses in the distance. Snow creeping down from the mountains. The sky was huge. The silence, healing. He had a dog now. A truck that needed oil every week. And hands that were finally starting to feel useful again. He didn't check the news. Didn't care that Angela had quietly remarried. That the trust she tried to steal had dissolved. That Kane vanished from the grid 2 weeks after the trail went cold. All of that belonged to a past version of himself. And that man? He was dead. I sat on my porch that night, whiskey in hand, staring out at the dark. I still had the flash drive. Still had the letter in a safety deposit box. If I ever needed to pull the trigger, I could. But for now, I was free. Maybe forgiveness is a myth. Maybe some people aren't built for it. But freedom? Freedom's real. And sometimes the best revenge is breathing air she'll never share again.